If you want to publish a book, but you feel stuck, out of time, and you don't know what to do next, then it's time to finish the damn book. Here's your host, Susie Schaefer.
Welcome to this episode of Finish the Damn Book. I'm your host, Susie Schaefer. My guest today is Jackie Lapin, the Historic Traveler-in-Chief at The Historic Traveler, a media outlet and membership community for history lovers offering article features, travel resources, and stunning photo galleries, alongside carefully curated recommendations for historical novels, history books, biographies, films, and museums that illuminate some of history's most treasured stories. An avid historical reader herself, Jackie shares highlights from more than 500 destinations she has visited and photographed, presented through a quarterly e-magazine, website, newsletter, and the Historic Traveler International membership community, a dynamic network of like-minded travelers and readers. Jackie brings her photojournalism-focused storytelling style to the Historic Traveler after serving as one of the nation's first female sports writers, authoring 4 books and pioneering multiple communications industries. Welcome, Jackie.
I'm glad to be here, Susie, and thank you for that amazing introduction.
It's a mouthful, but boy, it's totally worth it. So let's jump right in. What has been your role in the publishing industry specifically, and how do you serve authors?
So I have actually spent the last 16 years helping authors get publicity for their books by doing a podcast radio tours. I've split my career into 2. One is conscious media relations, where I do podcast tours for authors and leaders. We introduce them to 9,000 radio shows and podcasts with a minimum guarantee of 30 invitations. And we've got 90 testimonials on our website. We've done that for 400 people. And you might recognize some of our clients: Don Miguel Ruiz, Ariel Ford, James Twyman, Joe Vitale, Kristen Jan Atwood, Maureen St. Germain, Miri Diamond, Noah St. John, just to name a few. And so we love helping authors who have a mission and a message, and even a memoir with a message, get out into the world by being able to tell their stories through podcasts and radio shows. It's my mission to help serve the world by bringing them to the podcasters that can help change lives.
That is amazing. And that list of names of people, authors that you've worked with is just incredible.
Thank you. Well, I started out in this field myself. I mean, doing my own book was my school, essentially. And I had 2 books that were both bestsellers. One was the best spiritual book of the year at the International New Age Trade Show. They're both on practical conscious creation. And in the process of doing that, I learned the book business, and of course, I followed the changes throughout the years. But really, the thing that really triggered all this was I built a database of shows in the internet radio space when the general publishers were only doing broadcast radio. And all of a sudden I had 750 shows to publicize on. And I had over 100 interviews. It drew, really put my books into high gear. And then I realized, well, other people can use this. I've been a publicist for 20 years at that point. And I just pivoted and started focusing on people who are making the world a better place and helping people in some way, shape, or form. And so that's when I ended up doing the work that I do now.
Which is amazing, because when you tap into the spiritual side and the mission side of doing work, it doesn't feel like work anymore.
You're absolutely right. And, for me, it's like I have 2 loves. I have the podcast tour, which is one of the great long-term loves of my life. And then I've got the Historic Traveler, which is my new love and the passion of my heart. And so I get a double dose of love all the time.
So when you first published your book, what changed for you as an author?
That's a really interesting question. I've been a publicist my whole life, and I had to see life as an author. And allow myself to be interviewed and be vulnerable and to enter the world of the artist, I think, would you say, the person, the creator. enter the word of the, I mean, because I've always considered myself a craftsperson,
Mm.
in the PR world. And for the first time, I was basically a creator. And for me, it was so enthralling to be able to bring my book forward and into the world and know that it was making a big difference. This was after The Secret came out. The guides give everybody the same message at the same time. It's really astonishing. And so my book was coming out right at the time of The Secret. So I got to ride the coattails of The Secret.
Mm.
And it was the message people needed to hear at that time. And I still think it's a life-changing message. I gave it to somebody last week who just said it turned everything around for him. So it's really important for me to feel that my words were achieving the life-changing mission that I set them out to be. And so that's how I perceived it from an author, as opposed to being able to just market it.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful. So let's talk about your new venture, The Historic Traveler.
Thank you. So this came about thanks to you, my friend.
Okay, I have to have you pause for 1 second. I'll just kind of give an overview to our listeners so they can understand how this came to fruition. So I went up to see Jackie and we spent a weekend going around old bookstores and finding unique books and doing shopping and having fun. And in the evenings, we were sitting there talking about what was Jackie going to do next with her career. And that's kind of how this came up. So yeah.
And so out of that came this incredible download that brought together my storytelling skills, a little bit about the historic locations where I'd been, the history of it, and what to see when you go there. My beautiful pictures from shooting all around the world that have been sitting in carousels and notebooks for the last 30 years. And some I've been shooting digitally, of course. And then the book recommendations of what to read when you are going to those places that make you feel that you've been there in those times, that it brings it to life. And so I thought, let's put it all together so that every article that we post on the website, every magazine article, not only has the beautiful travel information, but it has the books to read. And then, of course, when we created the magazine, the Historic Traveler magazine, the first half of the magazine is destinations. The second half of the magazine is books and movies and television shows. And interestingly enough, each one of them has an interview. So the one has an interview on an expert somewhere in the history field. The other one has a best-selling international historic novel writer.
Wow.
And so I was thrilled. The second issue was with Tony Riches, who's one of the top Tudor and Elizabethan authors in the world today. Man, you can't go on Amazon without seeing his books. And not only that, I was just at the Historic Novel Society of North America, meeting 500 amazing historic novel authors, but particularly some incredible names like Fiona Davis and Kate Quinn and Margaret George, who all said they would be more than happy to sit for an interview. So you will see those interviews in future editions.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I love the combination of all these resources where you've got books, magazines, movies, travel, like all of it just seems so cohesive. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. What you have created is such a unique brand and offering. So how can people, before we go any further, I want people to know, how can they get a hold of you? Because I want to make sure that we, make sure that people understand the Historic Traveler. I just joined too, and there's no membership fee, which blew my mind. Like, what?
Absolutely. We don't want to put up any barrier. We believe that if you love history, travel, historic novels, or anything in between, you should be here. And so let's go over a little bit with some of the resources that you do get.
Yeah.
And you can just go to thehistorictraveler.com to sign on, and it's THE, historic, and then traveler with one L, not the British spelling, the American spelling. And so thehistorictraveler.com. So what you get in addition to our articles that come out 3 times a week and the magazine, you also have my amazing photo gallery of images from all over the world, 55 individual collections, which I really are quite extraordinary. And we're getting lots of accolades for it. But you also get the a directory of insight guides, which are the best directory for historic people who love history. And so
Mm.
there's 200 of them in there. Then my favorite is the historic novel, the a book reading directory, which has 8,000 historic novels, mysteries, history books, and biographies by state or country or city. So
Wow.
if you're, read before you go, and you can find the kinds of things. Or if you just love to read English novels about England, or if you're sitting around and you're looking for another novel and, it's your armchair days of just hanging out, you can do that. And by the way, there's something else coming that's very exciting. Our hot historic novel 25. And that's going to be the hottest current historic novels in the marketplace. And so we're going to be introducing that in the next couple of weeks. So you also get a directory of historic hotels, B&Bs, and inns across the world. You get a directory of historic TV dramas and where you can see them on broadcast or on streaming. You can also get a list of films, the top 200 films over the last, years by era. So you can go and look at the Roman ones, etc. Then we'll be having a directory of museums. On top of that, as you said, we have a no cost white glove travel concierge.
Yes,
So if
I'm going to
you
tap into that for sure.
So you know how hard it is to find a travel agent.
Yeah.
So here's one that will do the work at no cost to you and even, look for ways to reduce your costs.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that partnership. And, eventually I'm also going to be taking people on trips. So, and we have a newsletter that comes out every other week. And in that newsletter, you get, I get a book, you get a book review, you get articles you might have missed. You get interesting new authors whose books are now in the directory. You get tips about what's going on in the wider world about history, archaeological finds, all kinds of other, or opportunities to take advantage of an archaeological dig, and then we also include, all kinds of news and tips that are just going to keep you coming back for more. And eventually we'll be putting in the trips there that we're going to invite people to come on.
Yeah.
And so it's just really, really robust and filled with things that I think, and we're continuing to add things so that, oh, and I forgot to talk about the community. So the community, we have a book club, we have a monthly meeting, and we have a chat board. So
Oh,
come
love it.
in and play with us and interact. So, I love the fact that I don't have to travel alone anymore. I can go find people and connect with people in the historic traveler community. So that's why we are making it a family environment. Everybody is welcome.
I love that. And that was one of the things that I remember us talking about is, as women, sometimes we don't want to travel with husbands. Sometimes we don't want to travel with family. Sometimes we want to go somewhere kind of on our own, but not be alone. And so being able to find a travel partner to go with was really, I think, empowering, especially for women, especially in these times that we're in. So I think that's a really beautiful feature. So yeah, you heard it here first. If you love to travel and you love historic novels, check out thehistorictraveler.com. And Jackie will have all kinds of good stuff for you. And I have to say, one of my other favorite things about your site is the gallery, because the gallery is just magical.
Thank you. Oh, that's a beautiful word. I accept that. Thank you.
All right, let's go back and talk a little bit more about publishing, because I think it's really interesting. Your first book was a spiritual book. And so what are the spiritual or faith-based growth experience that you have experienced on your path to becoming an author and working with authors?
Well, in the very beginning, it was a little bit more of a hard sell than it is now.
Hmm.
Thank goodness spirituality has much more integrated the mainstream. and people are much more accepting of this. I was perceived as woo woo and out there in the very beginning. And now, law of attraction isn't, nearly as unknown as it was. And of course, I took it way beyond the concept of law of attraction. And that was what's good about it. And I'm going to just offer this advice to anybody. I don't care what sector you're working in. And even if it's kind of derivative of other things, make it different, make it unique. That was why I got so much acceptance. It wasn't for me about how to manifest. It was how to raise your personal frequency on a day-to-day basis, just doing the things that you do normally, looking at them a little bit differently. So Practical Conscious Creation had 70 individual articles, little mini articles, and 70 individual tips, so that it would just lighten the way that you do things, so that the higher your frequency, the better, faster manifester you would be. Now, a lot of other people were putting out books at that time, and it was already dead by the time my second book came out. But I got 100 interviews because it was such a unique positioning. It was so different. It was so practical.
Yeah.
And so that's the advice that I would offer people. Just don't make it sound like everybody else's book. Make it your own. And when you're publicizing it, or if you ask somebody to publicize your book, make sure that they can carve you out a niche, a distinction that makes you unique. Sometimes it's your hero's journey story. Sometimes it's the methodology used. Sometimes it's breakthrough experiences you've had. You just have to be entirely unique unto yourself in some aspect that's going to make those podcasters and there's hosts and the media say, yes, I want you in your book.
Yes. And it's interesting because one of the biggest buzzwords today is authenticity. And I think that as authors take that leap of faith and put themselves out there in an authentic, real way, that's what connects people, because they say, oh, wow, that person's unique and different, but they're being authentic. So there's no judgment around it. Right. So I love that. And I think that, people like you back in the day of when The Secret came out were real trendsetters in saying, hey, this is who I am. Love me or hate me, right? Just put yourself out there.
I did. And, it was the mainstream media. I got a couple of interviews. It wasn't a lot of, but the Mind, Body, Spirit, community ate it up. Absolutely ate it up. And people who were on the fringe, saw the opportunity and came into it as well. So, and, you just have to have faith that you're going to attract the right audience for you when you are in alignment.
Yeah. And you can find your book on Amazon, right?
Absolutely. Both of them. The Art of Conscious Creation, How You Can Transform the World, and Practical Conscious Creation, Daily Techniques to Manifest Your Desires.
Love it. Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about intuition, because that's part of manifesting too. Was there a time when you followed your intuition and you had a breakthrough or something great happen? And was there a time when you didn't, and then you had a different result? Let's talk about that.
So I want to frame it more in the sense of my relationship with the divine. One of the things that when I was, before I did all this, I had one of the two largest sports special events and cable TV PR agencies in America. And one of the things that I realized is if I was doing things that I believed were morally appropriate and right, money always showed up. The universe had my back and was taking care of me. If I didn't, and I did something that I knew I shouldn't, and I was feeling guilty for it, it was much more of a struggle.
Yeah.
And so I realized at that time that there was a direct relationship to me and the powers. And so I started to open at that point to listening to what guidance is out there, what, messaging. And I have created different businesses by, as I say, following God's breadcrumbs. There's a little hint here, a little direction here, a little direction here. And that intuition, that listening to that movement, that direction I'm being given has enabled me to, succeed in each of these businesses and move forward. And when to get out as well. When is the time to move on? And so I'm a firm believer that it's time, that you really have to hear those messages and pay attention to them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's part of your own inner GPS, your own inner guidance, that tells you, okay, am I supposed to do this or am I not supposed to do this? And I think when we listen and we get into our body, and you're going to know, because your intuition speaks to you through your body. If you get heart palpitations, or you get ginned up about something, or you feel nervous or anxious, that's telling you it's probably not a good thing. There's a trigger there for some reason. But if you're feeling like, ooh, satisfaction, like that feels good, like that resonates with me, then that's your intuition saying, move forward, take it, go for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Super cool. I love
And
that.
the corollary to that is when you act on it, the universe opens doors. Things just start happening.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so I know our listeners love this, and I know you do too. So I've got my cards here. Shall we pull some cards?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's pull some cards. I'm going to see if I can actually see these without my glasses this time. Yeah, that goes. Oh, the joy of being in our middle years, right? Okay,
Yes.
so let's see, what does the universe, what does source have for our listeners today based on our conversation with Jackie? What kind of energy can we pull in here? Let's just see what comes up. Okay. I'm going to pull 3 cards. First one's from the bottom. Oh, I love this so much. This one is a 20 card, so that reduces to a 2. This is the Imagine card.
Ooh.
Hard in that light, but isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
So Imagine is, and this is what's interesting too, is as we are recording this, we actually are coming up on a full moon in Leo. And this is a new moon in Leo. So this, you can see on this card, is a new moon. And she's actually holding, she's got the moon on a string, just like Sinatra says, but it's a blue card. So the Imagine card is all about, what do you want to manifest? What do you want to call in? What do you want to create for yourself? And what's really interesting is it's blue. Blue is the throat chakra. So that's really about us saying, okay, we can journal and write down the things that we want to plan and prepare for and bring into our world. But if we use the throat chakra, if we speak it into existence and give it energy, this is also why I have blue in my background. It's about activating that throat chakra, speaking your truth, being authentic, right? That you will actually manifest it that much faster. So give it energy, speak it into existence. Oh my goodness. We got a 4 card. So 4 is about balance. Think of a 4-legged table, a 4-legged animal. They are steady, grounded, balanced, right? This one's higher power. If I can get it in there a little closer. Higher power. So that's saying really trust in the divine, in your higher self, your intuition, right? Intuition. And on this card, the angel has, well, it looks like kind of like an angel. She's got a crown on, so crown chakra, but also there's a keyhole in her third eye. So using your upper chakras to manifest and create. And with the keyhole in the third eye, that means that when you get that spark of intuition, when you get that spark of creativity, know that it's trusted and supported by the divine and to move forward with it. Those 2 cards right there are really freaking powerful. I'm just saying. So, wow, the energy you're calling in here is pretty good. Okay, and then we got a 44. So now we actually have 44 is a master number, like 33, 22. These are all master numbers. This card is thinker. Okay, so this is saying she's sitting on the building blocks, which means she's got a stable foundation, but she's thinking. And what this says to thinker is sometimes we can't overthink it, right? You have to just trust it and not all get wrapped up in your head. Now, you have a 44 here, and then you have another 4. So now we have 444, which is an angel number. So look that up, because sometimes they come up with different meanings. So the meaning that you look it up, the meaning you get when you look it up will be what's intended for you. So because a 444 could mean different things at different times. So there we have a 444. We've got imagine, higher power, and thinker. Don't overthink it. Trust your heart. Go with it. That's your message today. Cool, huh?
Beautiful. I love that.
Oh my goodness. That's a powerful message. So, okay, you guys, get out there. Be creative. Speak it into existence. Go for it. Okay, so Jackie, any other things that you'd like to share about what you're working on? Do you have any closing wisdom for us?
Well, the first thing I want to do, I want to also invite people to take advantage of our e-guide, the Historic Traveler e-guide. So it's 20 international cities where you can immerse yourself in history and the books to read to make you feel as if you live there. And you can get that by going to thehistorictraveler.com/guide. And I'll to repeat that, thehistorictraveler.com/guide. So take advantage of that. It's absolutely fantastic. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me on the website. You can connect with me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Wow.
All of the other ways. We welcome you. And by the way, follow us because we've got really cool stuff. We've got reels that are going to sometimes bring tears to your eyes. And there's a whole interesting, fun series on Fridays with me having the faces of famous women in history.
Oh, I love that so much. Okay, you guys, check in with Jackie because she's chock full of good, fun, exciting stuff. And thank you for that free giveaway. I very much appreciate that. Jackie, it's always good to see you. Thanks for being here today.
Oh, Susie, it was a pleasure. You are always a beautiful light in the world.
Thank you. And if you found this interesting, I encourage you to join me for the next episode and be sure to subscribe. Every week, one lucky listener who subscribes and posts a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes will be entered into a drawing for the grand prize, a private VIP day with me, valued at $25,000. So be sure to subscribe and post a review. Until then, keep on writing so you can finish the damn book. We'll see you next time.
So that's it for today's episode of Finish the Damn Book. Head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week that posts a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a $25,000 value private VIP day with Susie Schaefer herself. Head on over to finishthedamnbookpodcast.com and pick up a free copy of Susie's gift. And join us on the next episode.